For almost 3 decades, Tupac Shakur's murder has remained one of the most enduring mysteries in American music. Now, for the first time, the case is being tested before a jury. Jury selection is underway in Las Vegas in the trial of Duane Keffe D. Davis, the former gang leader accused of helping orchestrate Tupac's killing in 1996. The proceedings are expected to unfold over roughly 4 to 5 weeks and after 30 years of theories and speculations. The central question will be whether prosecutors can finally prove their version of what happened beyond reasonable doubt. These are some of the views from those on the streets of Oakland, California, which served as the birthplace of Tupac's professional music career.
Of the terms of poetic justice. If he is in fact the actual individual that plotted, planned, and I see why the prosecutor would bring him to court. If he's able to be held accountable for it, yeah, that would definitely bring closure to our community and for even America abroad, especially in this date and time, you know. But let it be what the truth really is.
He stood for a lot in his music and how he brought his storytelling to life in the community and what it means to be, you know, out there in the streets, you know, especially in Oakland, California. There's a lot of people who are trying to survive out here in the streets of Oakland, and I think his music definitely resonates with that. And, you know, there's hope. He brings a lot of hope to the community.
Seeds that he planted. I think about the way that he moved. It showed so many young black men like we can move and be in our spirit, and we can make mistakes, and we can still be human, and we can still be happy and have joy without everybody tying our entire existence to guns and drugs. And Tupac was that messenger for us, and he was such a powerful person. Like, you can't even mention Oakland without mentioning Tupac. And like many of us, we found our roots right here in Oakland, and Tupac is the same.
Well, for more on this, we speak to U.S. correspondent Sherwin Bryce-Peace, who's monitoring developments for us on this. Sherwin, I understand that jury selection is currently underway. Of course, we're not a jury-based judiciary, so perhaps describe to us how that process unfolds, how far into the process they are, and when we can expect the main trial to begin, which we assume will be televised.
And you assume wrong, it will not be televised. So this is not an O.J. Simpson type live television affair that you can watch from your couch. You're going to have to report on good reporting, and we hope to certainly support that notion. Look, the jury process, citizen trial, essentially, you know, being adjudicated or judged by your peers is a very central aspect of how the American court system works in the United States. And so part of your citizen duty, part of holding a U.S. passport is to show up for jury duty. And so you get these random letters in the post, and then you don't know exactly what trial or what court case you might be assigned to. And so you show up on a day, and, you know, as luck or unluck would befall you, you could be sitting in a 4 to 5 week trial that has to find guilt or innocence as it relates to who killed Tupac Shakur some 30 years ago. So a pool, we understand, of some 75 journalists, jury members, potential jurors, gets whittled down, Oliver, to about 36, and then, you know, they start asking the prosecution and the defense start asking questions like, you know, did you like Tupac's music? Did you read the memoir of Duane Keffe D? Do you know about the 1996, the details of the 1996 shooting? Have you any opinions about how the killing transpired? And so they are asking these questions essentially to get to a point you know, in terms of whether these potential jurors will be able to independently adjudicate the facts as they are presented at trial. So from those 36, they'll be whittled down to around 16 jurors, 4 alternates, and 12 jurors that will be seated for this trial. And then the process will unfold on Monday, we understand. Once this jury pool process is complete this week, the opening arguments on August 17th, that's Monday next week, when we then begin to get to the substance of this trial and the allegations that are being made here by the prosecution. I chatted to an entertainment journalist, Jennifer Sue, earlier today to get her thoughts on the significance of this trial. Watch.
25 at the height of his career. He was murdered. There are so many circumstances surrounding his death, but his voice never died. And I think that, of course, is the most significant thing. He talked about himself being the rose that, came out of the concrete. He had extraordinarily difficult circumstances as a childhood, and to be able to actually go through everything that he did to reach the heights of fame and success and being a cultural icon, but also a cultural advocate on speaking out on poverty, injustice, racism, violence. He really was the person of his time, and just a life tragically cut short. So the significance of this trial coming together 30 years later really, is almost unbelievable.
Yeah, worth remembering there, Oliver, that he would have been 55, essentially, in 2026. His life cut short at the very ripe age of just 25 years old.
Yeah. The first time I heard Keffe D speak about any of this was during a podcast interview, Sherwin. Vlad TV is the popular American podcast where Keffe D is seemingly recklessly speaking about this. Now, one would assume that the prosecutors will use things he said publicly, like on such a platform, and what he wrote in his memoir to use that as evidence in court. What exactly is the prosecution hoping to prove in this instance?
Yeah, a lot of self-incriminating stuff in terms of interviews he's done, the memoir in and of itself that was released, I believe it was in 2019. What they're seeking to prove, the prosecution doesn't say that he is the person that pulled the trigger. They are trying to prove that he organized the weapon that is at the center of this murder, essentially, right? And he, in his own memoir, has placed himself in the white Cadillac that pulled alongside the BMW that was carrying Tupac Shakur. He described the shooting itself in the book. In the book, Davis wrote that Tupac appeared to reach beneath his own seat to what he assumed was a weapon. Davis then said one of the men sitting behind him in the white Cadillac grabbed a Glock and fired back. This is something that will be ventilated in court. Who fired first? If Tupac actually had a gun in the BMW, this will be ventilated. And we understand that this is significant because it does place Davis at the scene. Reporting on his memo also says that Davis described getting the handgun from an associate and putting it into the Cadillac before the shooting. So this is going to be very much a focus area of what the prosecution is going to lay out in court. And also understand, there's a gentleman, Orlando Anderson, that apparently is a nephew of Keffe D, who had an interaction, a confrontation, we understand, at the MGM Grand, a casino venue in Las Vegas that hosted a boxing match between with Mike Tyson as one of the star performers that night. Tupac Shakur attended that when this confrontation happened. And so they are going to now draw a thread between that confrontation and then what played out later that night on the Las Vegas Strip. And so certainly a lot of interest in terms of the ventilation of those facts.
Yeah, another name that seems to come up quite a bit, and one that will be ubiquitous throughout the trial, one would assume, is that of Suge Knight. Well, more formally, Marion Suge Knight, as he is formally known by. I understand Suge Knight might still be in jail. He was in the car with Tupac on the night of the shooting. Will he be called as a witness? Is there any sort of confirmation or indication thereof?
Yeah, I listened to an interview. You're absolutely right. He is incarcerated in San Diego on a manslaughter, no contest, fatal hit and run that happened in 2015. He was incarcerated in 2018. I think he's serving a 28-year sentence. And I heard an interview that he did with TMZ. And the reporting out there is that he is on the prosecutor's witness list. Essentially, he was sitting next to Tupac when the incident happened, when he was essentially shot. Remember, Tupac didn't die immediately. He was on life support for 6 days, died later of internal bleeding. So he is a very critical eyewitness. His perspective is going to be very, very much important here. If he agrees to testify, if the prosecution and the judge is able to compel him to testify, but he has said on the record, this is not about him. He's not willing to testify, and that is something that might or might not be very critical to what the prosecution puts forward here. But as you correctly mentioned, he is incarcerated, serving a very long sentence for manslaughter. And so, yeah, he would have to be released from that process, or maybe he would testify in camera or virtually, who knows. But certainly a very interesting aspect that is yet to fully be ventilated here.
Yeah. Well, Sherwin, thank you so much for that. Really do appreciate it. Sherwin Bryce Peace coming to us live there from New York.